Leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. This was said by Simon. Welcome to this presentation. My name is Abdulai Barrie. For this presentation, I'll be taking you through the different styles of leadership, their definition, and the different leaders I considered for this submission, and a comparative study that talks about their strengths and weaknesses. And to conclude, I will end with the key lessons I learned during this assignment. To start with, let's start with the leadership styles. Talking about grassroots leadership, this style focuses on leadership that originates from the country, from the community or local level. So for this leadership style, I will be using Dr. Kadisise, who is from Sierra Leone. She works in women's empowerment and community development. Talking about the public sector leadership, this style pertains leadership within the government or public sector. So for this leader, I'll be looking at Dr. Abdulai Barrie, His Excellency, the former president, who was president from 2007 to 2018. Another leadership I'll be looking at is entrepreneurial leadership. This style emphasizes leadership in the business world. So in this situation, I'll be looking at the South African leader, Vusi Kwayo, who is an entrepreneur and a motivational speaker. For the private sector partnership, this style involves collaboration between the public and the private sector. So in this situation, I'll be looking at Dr. Sianya Makroma, the former First Lady of Sierra Leone from 2007 to 2018, who works effectively to improve healthcare. To start with, the grassroots leader, we are talking about Dr. Kadisise. She was born on the 4th March 1949 in Uroti Funk, Moyamba district. Before getting into politics, she was a university lecturer and a consultant. The leadership characteristics she exemplified are strong community engagement, grassroots mobilization, advocacy for local issues, and empathy and relatability. One famous quote Dr. Kadisise usually uses is that, as a widow and single mother, I believe I could, so I did. Some of the leadership she showed were prior to her being appointed as the chairman of the National Commission for Democracy. She was heading the Frabe College English department. So during that process, she advocated for students to be engaged into politics, especially women. And then she created a national culture that requires all citizens to share in the responsibilities and enjoy the benefits of government. So this actually encouraged people to make sure they engage in government activities rather than leaving it to the politicians. Another leadership characteristic she exemplified where Dr. Kadisise, she has a strong commitment to addressing women's underrepresentation in government and civic institutions. And she served as the Sierra Leone People's Party regional women's leader for the North and worked diligently to contribute in building the capacity for Northern women. During her process, she was the leader. She worked diligently to contribute to building the capacity for the women in the North. She supervised the government microcredit program, which provided urgent financial support to women, including those in the SLPP, following the end of the war. So as a situation, she provided assistance, monetary assistance to women and make sure those women are empowered. This is why I chose her as a grassroots leader. For the political leader, we are looking at Dr. Abdulai Barrie, who was the president from 2007 to 2018. He is from Makeni, the northern part of Sierra Leone. The leadership characteristics he exemplify are economic development, reconciliation, stability, healthcare and social services, and democratic governance. One most important quote he uses is, good governance is key to achieving our objectives and the overall mission of a united and vibrant Sierra Leone. Some of the things he did in leadership were, before he came to power, Sierra Leone was ranked in the Human Development Index as the lowest. So he increased that to a country that is attracting foreign investment. To give more context to this, before taking office, Sierra Leone was the lowest ranked country on the United Nations Human Development Index. Employing his private sector expertise, the president enacted a policy of economic openness by attracting foreign investment to spur job growth and to integrate Sierra Leone within the world economy, which was the first known as his agenda for change. 10 years later, Sierra Leone, the GDP of Sierra Leone increased to 7% by the World Bank, which led the country to both freedom and the press and religious tolerance. Moving on, the first major action he took as a government was to reform the anti-corruption legislation and giving them more autonomy to the Anti-Corruption Commission. So this situation, as he stated, it is now the anti-corruption has the power to fight corruption and strengthen transparency. So like giving them this autonomy to make sure they are free from politics, they are free from biasness, will help the country increase its transparency and make sure it reduces corruption. For this entrepreneur leader, Vusi Tembawa is a South African entrepreneur, author, and businessman. He is the founder and CEO of the My Growth Fund Venture Partners. The leadership characteristics he exemplifies are innovation and entrepreneurship, strategic vision, risk-taking, and success-oriented. When you talk about Vusi, his favorite quote is, "If you want to succeed and you need to be utterly obsessed." This is one of my favorite quotes. The leadership he has carried on, he's a venture capitalist, elite coach, and mentor who is worked to building and transforming hundreds of businesses across Africa and the world. His success track record of partnering with G-suite executives and entrepreneurs has drawn invitation to share his knowledge and expertise through 180 presentations on 4 different continents and in 38 countries since 2015. Vusi has become one of the wealthiest young people in Africa and was the youngest African entrepreneur to grace the cover of the Entrepreneur magazine. Another leadership he exemplifies, he's a very impressive public speaker. He inspires organizations, teams, and leaders to build, to win by shifting the way they think, work, and create value. So as a result, during this process, his research process goes beyond simple innovation and theory. It empowers clients with tools to manage the moment, transform their businesses, and develop agile leaders to be future ready. So this is why I chose him. So the final leader I chose is the Public-Private Partnership, Dr. Sia Nyama. The leadership characteristics that identify is advocacy for healthcare and women's issues, social mobilization, and community engagement. One key leadership thing he did was she's passionate about healthcare. In 2012, she launched a campaign aimed at protecting the lives of mothers and babies. So he gave the title of the campaign, "Give Birth to a Life Without HIV." The partners in this campaign were Ministry of Health and Sanitation, which is a public institution, National HIV and AIDS Secretariat, which is a public institution, United Nations AIDS, which is a private institution, and the Voice of Women, which is a private institution, and her own office, Office of the First Lady, which is a private institution. So this partnership was mainly to sensitize people, to teach them about the concept of living in a HIV-free world. So moving on, during this ceremony was chaired by Alhaji Sise, the program manager of the National AIDS Current Program. In his introductory statement, the chairman stated that the main objective of this campaign is to create awareness among the population of the women, and especially men, that we are critical to antenatal care and parent-mother to child transition. So during this process, they were aiming to reach out to different communities, make sure like the stigma in terms of HIV is reduced. As a result of this is one of the key things I chose her. She worked with different public and private institutions to make sure this was a success. Looking at their comparative analysis, the strength of Dr. Kanisi is that high levels of community ownership and participation promoted a sense of inclusivity and belonging. For Anisbai Koroma, he drove for economic development and infrastructure improvement. He has the ability to respond to and manage crisis. For Vusi, he is willing to take calculated risk, which is a strength, and a dynamic and innovative approach to businesses, which he provides. For Sia Koroma, his outcome-driven approach for addressing complex issues and his focus on sustainable and scalable solutions. The weaknesses, Dr. Kadisi say he has a limited scalability and resource constraint. For Dr. Anisbai Koroma, his political oppositions hinders his success, and then the persistent corruption also contributed. Hovusi Tembewayo is an entrepreneur style, may not directly cut across different societal issues, and most times the high risk taking risk to business failures. For Sia Kroma, challenges in balancing the interests of the public and private partnership. So the lessons learned, I learned that leaders are not born. Rather, their experiences shape them and spur them into actions. Another key thing I learned is that effective leaders should be able to leverage their strength and address their weaknesses. So in this situation, it is very important to use your strength against your weaknesses rather than just allowing the vice versa. Thank you very much for this presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.